Good morning. Today is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. V'lo ish es amiso. In this week's Torah portion, the Parsha BeHar, the Torah says, V'lo ish es amiso. You should not oppress your fellow. V'yaresam elokecha, and you should fear God. Ki ani Hashem elokecha, because I am God, your Lord. Now, this verse is in the context of commercial activity, buying and selling, and it prohibits overcharging, oppressing someone by overcharging for something significantly more than its value. There are a lot of details about how much more you can charge and under what circumstances, but it's an oppression, a monetary oppression. However, our sages say that there is a second meaning to this verse. Rashi quotes this, that this refers not only to commercial dealing, but also onoas devarim, oppressing someone with speech, with words. The Torah is telling us to be very careful not to use words that hurt or embarrass or shame another person. Sefer HaChinuch, which I quote many times, Rabbi Aharon of Barcelona writes, this mitzvah includes the warning not to cause pain to others through words in any way, and not to shame them. They go so far as to teach, this is one of the examples given in the Gemara, that if a person goes into a store and asks to see merchandise and has the store owner show them the merchandise and they ask questions about it, but the person has no intention of buying whatsoever. They're going to go home, they're going to buy it from the internet. The Gemara doesn't use the example of the internet, but you get the idea. The Gemara says it's not the right thing, because if you go into a store and you start asking the owner about the object and how does it work and what this quality is and that quality is, the store worker thinks maybe is going to have a sale. But in fact, he has no chance of a sale whatsoever because you already decided you're not going to buy it. And so therefore, you have raised his hopes about making a sale, and then you're not going to make the sale. Even so slight a thing as that is considered onas dvarim. I remember many years ago, there's a store in New York. The store is still there. It's called Barney's. It's a very, very upscale men's store. But years ago, going back decades, it was a store that sold very high quality merchandise, but they had sales that were excellent. And people would line up for blocks and blocks. I was among them for the Barney's annual sale. In any event, years ago, when you went into Barney's to shop, they had a bowl, a glass bowl, filled with pins. And you could take a pin and put it on your shirt or your jacket, and the pin says, I'm just browsing. So if you take a pin and you're wearing you're wearing this pin, so no salesman will approach you. They don't want to bother you. I'm just browsing. If there's some understanding that you say in advance, I'm not planning to buy anything here, I'm just looking around, so then that's okay. But to make the person working at the store think that maybe they're going to get a sale and you have no intention to buy it, even that is considered onas dvarim. It is proper that one take care of their speech that contains no hint of contempt toward people, because the Torah is very strict about verbal abuse, says Rabbi Aharon of Barcelona, since it is something that people take strongly to heart. In fact, many people are more concerned about having someone speak to them in a dignified way than they are about monetary matters. So you got to be very, very careful not to embarrass, not to shame, not to make somebody feel bad under any kind of circumstance. However, Sefer HaChinuch goes further. And he gives us very important guidelines in how to apply this practically in our lives. And this comes up in for every one of us every single day. Says Sefer HaChinuch, this does not mean that if one person comes and insults me with harsh words or embarrasses me, that I should just listen and not answer back. Because it is impossible for a person to be like a stone, remaining unmoved. And furthermore, if I remain silent, it might appear that I am acknowledging or agreeing with the terrible things the person is saying. So, just as the Torah permits a person in self-defense in a physical manner, if someone is attacking me, I'm allowed to protect myself from being attacked. So too, a person does not have to suffer damage inflicted by another person through words. And therefore, I am allowed to save myself, to respond in whatever manner I need to protect myself. So I'm allowed to respond to a person who insults me. However, the Torah commands us to try to stay away from this, and at the very least, that we should not come to argue with and insult others in response to what they have said back to us. Rather, when we do respond, we should respond calmly. We should respond respectfully, even though that's not the way that they spoke to us. And we should not be excessively angry, because anger is a terrible, terrible trait. Don't lose your temper. This requires tremendous self-control, and we work on it, and we need to keep reminding ourselves, and, it's a very difficult thing, but this is what the Torah is telling us to do. However, Sefer HaChinuch says, there are certain people whose piety is of such a degree that they do not even allow themselves to answer back insults in order for anger not to overcome them. They don't respond at all. And concerning them, our sages said, those who are insulted but do not insult in turn, who hear themselves humiliated and do not answer back, concerning them it is written, and those who love God, they are like those who love God and are like the rising sun in its splendor. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Amital derives from this passage a very, very important lesson. And there are many applications, and this is an idea that Rav Amital discusses in many different contexts. We have discussed several of them together. A fundamental principle of the Torah's perception of a human being: the Torah never ignores human nature. The Torah does not require a person to suppress their feelings in order to fulfill mitzvos. The Torah knows that it's difficult for a person who is being insulted not to react, and does not require a person in that situation not to react. Remember, what Rabbi Aharon of Barcelona says is that someone insults you, you're allowed to respond, because you can't be a stone. Just respond calmly and don't lose your temper. So what Rav Amital is saying is, you see, the Torah sees you can't be a stone. You're a human being. If you're insulted, you're going to respond. Just respond calmly and don't lose your temper. Now, obviously he adds, based on the last paragraph of the Sefer HaChinuch, it is an added measure of piety if a person hears insults but does not respond at all. However, the Torah does not obligate a person to behave this way. This is like an added level of piety, not required for the minimum fulfillment of mitzvos. And furthermore, even with regard to those pious individuals, we are not told that they feel no anger. Anger in such a situation is natural. It's a human inclination. These pious people manage to conquer their anger and refrain from replying. So the Torah is not telling a person here or anywhere else, do something that is completely contrary to human nature. The Torah understands human nature and asks us to elevate it. So, yes, if someone insults us, we have the right to respond, but we should try to do so calmly. And if we can bring ourselves to the level of not responding at all, that's a higher level of piety. But even there, the Torah doesn't say don't get angry, because that's impossible. People get angry if they're insulted. Just, you have to control it. Rabbi Amital quoted the Kotzker Rebbe, Rabbi Nachum Mendel of Kotzk, who used to say, the Holy One, blessed be He, is not looking for angels. Angels who have no desires and no inclinations. God has plenty of angels. What God is looking for us to be is people, human beings, with desires and temptations and human nature, but rather Anshe Kodesh, people of sanctity who succeed in overcoming their urges and directing their inclinations towards sanctity and purity. To try to take our human nature and to try to elevate it. I've shared this story with some of you before, and this is a story that at least I need to hear on a regular basis. Benjamin Zander was the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. In June 2008, he gave a TED Talk. He spoke about his career, what was gratifying to him, what was meaningful to him. Then he added the following, not really connected to the first part of his presentation. He said, so now I have one last thought, which is that it really makes a difference what we say, the words that come out of our mouth. I learned this from a woman who survived Auschwitz, one of the rare survivors. She went to Auschwitz when she was 15 years old. Her brother was 8, and their parents had been murdered. This woman said to him, we were in the train going to Auschwitz, and I looked down and saw my little brother's shoes were missing. I said, why are you so foolish? Can't you keep your things together, for goodness sake? It was the way an older sister might speak to a younger brother. Unfortunately, it was the last thing I ever said to him, because I never saw him again. He did not survive. When this woman came out of Auschwitz, she made a vow. She told Benjamin Zander this. She said, I walked out of Auschwitz into life and I made a vow. And the vow was, I will never say anything that could not stand as the last thing I ever say. Such powerful words. Words that should ring and resonate in our ears. Words that bring to life this pasuk, V'lo ish es amiso. I will never say anything that could not stand as the last thing I ever say. My friends, I wish you a good day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.